Hey guys, how are you? It's Armando Cruz, and I'm excited to have interviewing today Dax Moy. The reason I'm so excited is because we're going to have an opportunity to bring Dax over from the UK to host the first IPC event, Integrated Performance Coaching event ever done in the US. And we're going to do it at my facility. So I wanted to take this time to interview Dax and ask him a few questions, which I know that a lot of trainers have been asking about what integrated performance coaching is. So Dax, thank you and welcome.
Hey, thanks for getting me on the call. As usual, I'm more than pleased to have the opportunity to ramble on about my weird ideas about life, the universe, and everything.
Wonderful. And I flew over to London to go hear you speak, and it was truly an honor. And I don't do that very often. In fact, I hadn't gone to any event all year until I heard of your event. And not only did I go, but I went to the furthest place possible.
Yeah.
I flew out to London, which apparently you guys don't like sun over there.
No. we don't do sun in the UK. We still haven't yet, and it's mid-April. There's still no sun.
Wow, wow. So I flew over there, and we talked about different styles of coaching, or actually becoming the best possible trainer possible, and really stepping out and setting yourself apart from the noise that's out there. And one of the conversations we had was the coaching aspect, and I said, hey, this is something I'm really interested in. And then that's kind of where the dialogue started. And I said, really, we don't have that. There are life coaches, which I think we'll get into, like what the difference is. But I felt that bringing in the integrated performance coaching to the U.S. would be very beneficial for trainers, because I've seen the way you've been able to interact with other trainers and how it's impacted your business to be the highest paid trainer in the world. And for myself, I know that I want something very similar, and I think along those same lines. So I think it's only, it's a blessing that you have been able to come on over, and now we get to do the first one in Miami now in April. So I'm excited.
Sure, I'm really excited too. It's going to be a great program.
So why don't we just dive in there? And I asked some trainers, what kind of questions do you have? I've been spreading the word, and I think that not everyone understands exactly what integrated performance coaching is. So why don't we just start there as a foundation?
Okay, integrated performance coaching. So let's look at it this way. An average trainer generally tends to take on their clients with the idea that in some way, shape or form, everything in the client's life can be solved through calorie management, right? And whether that be you're gonna eat a bit less and you're gonna move a bit more, but the client, it kind of doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter what the client is facing. Nearly everything from a normal personal trainer's mindset is, let's just fix the calorie deficit. Let's get things squared away on that front, and life will be brilliant for you. Okay, the client immediately starts to lose a bit of weight, or get themselves into shape, or start to feel a bit better. They look in the mirror, but then eventually they hit that first plateau, and they think, "Crap, why is this not working out for me? Why am I not getting the next result?" And what's the trainer's normal kind of intervention? It's
exercise more.
Okay, let's see what we can do to bring your calories down just that little bit more. And while we're bringing them down, let's see if we can up the ante on your training program again, right? And that's kind of what all that most personal trainers have got. That's their toolkit. Excuse me. And we can riff on about the idea that we're doing corrective this and functional that, and kind of that we're doing metcon work, and that we're doing kind of escalating density. We're doing all this kind of stuff, but really, when it comes down to it, nearly every personal trainer at the base of their toolkit are using simple calorie restrictive or calorie consumptive devices. That's it. Here's the problem: most people aren't where they are in terms of their physical selves because of their physical selves. They're where they are because of their mental and emotional selves. They've essentially, kind of as within, so without. Or however you're feeling about yourself inside is what you exhibit to the world. And I know that sounds a little bit airy-fairy, particularly to the hardcore coaches who kind of really like to say, "Come on, shit, let's just get people moving." And once you get them moving, everything will be solved. And to that, I'd really like to ask the famous Dr. Phil question, right? How's that working for you? Right? Because most of the trainers that I've spoken to are telling me that they get great results for that first month, that first 6 weeks, maybe that first 8 weeks. And then the client comes to that plateau, and then the client starts to get pissed off. And then the client starts to say, this isn't working for me anymore, what can we do? And they start to go back to their old behaviors. Because we always gravitate back to the behaviors that we've actually been building into our minds for a very, very long time. Most trainers don't have any tools in their toolkit to deal with that. And what they tend to think is that, okay, I'm going to go on an MI course, like a motivational interviewing course, or I'm going to go on a goal-setting program, and they read all the goal-setting books, and they believe that, okay, all you've got to do is set a smart goal with your client. You've got to set them a specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-framed goal, and that's it. And it's the missing link. And now that my client has a goal in front of them, for some reason, they're supposed to be able to run through walls and kind of, swim oceans and climb mountains, and suddenly everything is great. But hasn't the client always kind of had a goal anyway? Hasn't the client always said, I want to drop this weight and I want to feel this, I want to do these things and whatever? Goal setting isn't what a coach is either. So over the years of building up my business, I started to look deeper and deeper and deeper into fundamental principles of what makes us behave the way we behave. What makes us do the things we do? Why do we take certain actions and not others, even though our stated aim is in alignment with one action? Why is it we often go, okay, my action says go north, and you immediately go south? Like, why do we do that?
Right.
Why do so many personal trainers have an almost adversarial relationship with their clients? You're supposed to be doing this, Mary. Why hasn't it been done? And Mary's kind of thinking in the back of her mind, screw you, you're not the boss of me, right? And so there's always this kind of mini combat going on. So what I looked at was what was at the core of human behavior. And I guess one of the things that really came up for me again and again and again is that we're not one single person. None of us are a single person. We are the base term I generally tend to use is that we're all schizophrenic, right? We are, like, for myself, I'm husband, I'm dad, I'm son, I'm entrepreneur, I'm writer, I'm poet, I'm philosopher, I'm so many different things.
Right.
And unless I get a way of making sure that the goals that I set in one area of my life are not in direct opposition and competition with the goals I'm setting in another area of my life, forget the adversarial kind of components against the trainer. I've got adversarial components against myself. Shit, I really want to do this, but if I do that, then I can't do this. And if I do that, then I can't do this, right? So that's one aspect. So the integrated performance coaching, the integration actually relates to not only how you integrate with each of your schizophrenic personalities, but then how each of your schizophrenic personalities integrates with life in general. Like, is it ever going to get you to where you say you want to go? And it goes far beyond goals. It goes far beyond goals, because all a goal is a tool for a feeling that you want to have in your life. And trainers generally tend to forget that. So we make it all about the dropping the clothing size. We make it all about losing the 30 pounds. If dropping the 30 pounds was that important to Mary, she'd have done it already. Okay. Right. At some point, Mary took her eye off the ball. She took her eye off the idea that there was a feeling that she wanted to get as a result of that. So integrated performance coaching, it manages to undo years of patterning and kind of get to the real deeper roots of things by actually addressing both the beliefs that lie behind their actions and the feelings that are the drivers for them. Right. So IPC is about getting to beliefs and feelings, those core desired feelings. And once you get to that, you can sidestep years of toing and froing. And it's not like a sudden quick fix. It's not like a trick. It's just helping a person identify what's really important to them. And most people have never really met themselves. That's one of the things that I talk about on the programs all the time. Most of us have never really met ourselves. We haven't got a clue about who we are, because most of our instruction comes from everybody else. It's about the labels that they put on us. They tell us what we're supposed to think, what we're supposed to feel, how we're supposed to act if we want to be successful. IPC basically throws all of that in the garbage and kind of says, define yourself. Okay, so that's I could talk about, obviously it's a couple of days program. I could go on and on and on, but at its root, that's the difference between, let's say, IPC and normal training, and I guess the difference between IPC and traditional life coaching is that the IPC program moves the traditional life coaching tends not to address your schizophrenic selves. That's for one. It generally tends to focus in on what are you stuck on and how can I help you get that. And that's where life coaching generally tends to work. Life coaching also has this fallacious belief that if you can create balance in your life, that things will be fixed. Okay, IPC kind of comes at it from a completely different angle and it says not only is balance not desirable, it's not really something that you should be chasing, but it may actually be harmful to you. Okay, because balance is something that causes a lot of stress, right? Let's say you look at your family, you look at your business, and you look at your health, and you go, right, I'm supposed to have 33.33333% of effort into each one of these areas, and if I don't, we've all seen the life wheel, right? Kind of, I use the life wheel as an example on the program, but we don't use it in the way other people use it, right? But the life wheel is often used as we're supposed to score the same score all the way around, otherwise our life is out of balance. And if your life is out of balance, whoa, watch out, right? Try aiming for the life of balance, as most life coaches will try and push you toward, is a great way for you to feel that you're a failure most of the time. Here's one of the ways I describe balance is this. Imagine that you and in the States you call them teeter-totters, right? In the UK we call them seesaws, right? So imagine you go to your local playground and there's a couple of kids sitting there and they both weigh exactly the same thing, exactly the same weight, and they jump on each end and nobody pushes off, nobody does anything to move it. You can imagine those two kids after about 10 seconds looking at each other, bored to death, right? Nothing is happening. There's no movement. Why? Because everything's in balance. And this is what each of us does in our lives, right? We strive for balance, and as soon as we get it, we get bored, right? And to break the boredom, we actually create drama in our lives just so that we can say, oh, there's something exciting going on. And that drama creates upheaval, and the upheaval creates the stress. And so we're in this perpetual kind of like this. That's how we keep the seesaw moving. That's how we keep the teeter-totter going, right? So in our lives, that's actually a natural part of who we are. What IPC says is not so much to look for creating balance, but look for creating the recognition that balance is inevitable, imbalance is inevitable, and control or at least enjoy the imbalance, right? So we strategically use imbalances. We say, okay, how do you want your life imbalanced for the next month to 6 weeks? What emphasis do you want to put into it? And how are you going to make sure that the teeter-totter swings back the other way? Right? There's a huge difference between the two. It's likewise if you were on a diet of kind of boiled chicken and broccoli for the next 6 years, you might look in great shape, right? But you've got the most boring diet on the planet, and you're probably hating life by that point, right? Right.
So what you're saying is, as far as the actual progression, when you're in that balance, essentially that's it. There's no movement, so there is no progression. There is no you are basically taking strategic approach to imbalance. Is it
exactly
is what you're saying?
A strategic approach to imbalance is a good way of putting it. That's because we're always going to be imbalanced, and the more we push for that balance, the less happy we are, because it creates stress to try and maintain equilibrium. It creates huge stress to try and maintain that. And every deviance from that, you feel like a failure, right? So how about if you flip that on its head and you start moving toward looking at each of the various elements of your life, and instead dictating, commanding what the imbalance is going to be for the next period of your life. And it's not that difficult to do, but it's extremely freeing, because most people. Here's one of the major non-secret secrets to why most goal setting and most pseudo coaching generally tends to fail. Like, you get a trainer who has been a trainer and he starts to move more into the coaching, and he tries doing the whole motivational stuff and the whole goal setting thing, and they find that it doesn't last very long before it kind of falls flat on its face. Well, a big part of that is because what you're doing with the client is that you're stealing their final freedoms. Most people don't feel very free in life. Their boss tells them what to do, their partners tell them what to do, they might be restricted by movements of kids and everything else. Now you're saying, don't eat this, don't eat that, don't eat this, and you must do this, and you must do this, and you must do this. The rebellion is usually it's their final fling with freedom. They're trying to keep some of their freedom. And there's a way that you can actually help a person to become a co-conspirator in their own success rather than a saboteur. the truth is there really isn't such a thing as a saboteur. We get a sabotage mindset, but what it is a person making a choice about exercising their freedom. Right. So again, IPC addresses that. IPC really gets to the core of that.
That's funny you said that, because that's what I just was writing down. It almost seems as, and I know that I've experienced it, and there's different relationships that you have with different clients and different trainers. Or some are very straight and hard to know. Other ones are just a lot, what seems like more caring and more friendship oriented.
Yeah.
And no matter what, and I've seen it with other friends of mine who are trainers, as well as with my own clients, sometimes everything is going wonderful, and all of a sudden there's what appears, like you said, a certain self-sabotage, and you're like, what are you doing? You were doing amazing. What just happened? And it's as if they're almost doing it on purpose, just to at that point, I don't know. And that's what ends up happening a lot of times. It's it become they don't strive for that lifelong process. It's just all right. That's it. No more.
Right.
And it's interesting you said that, because those were the thoughts coming to my head.
So here's something to think of in that, right? Because think of this: that there's a core feeling that sits behind every single goal that a person has, right? If you want that house by the beach, it's not so much the house by the beach that you want. It's a feeling that you will have when you have the house by the beach, right? There's a way that you want to feel, and that feeling might be successful. It might be relaxed. It might be free. It might be. It could be so many different things, and it's different for every person. But there's a feeling. Now, if what I'm doing let's say one of the things that you're working toward at the moment, like a core value, a core freedom, a core feeling that you want is freedom, right? And you say, one of the things that I'm doing this for is to experience freedom. Now, if your trainer stroke coach is putting things in that actually feel like they're taking away freedoms, how likely are you to work using a tool that takes away freedom towards something that's supposed to bring you freedom?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Again, so this is the big difference between the IPC process compared to traditional life coaching, which is generally, and there are some great life coaches out there, there really are, but a lot of life coaching is much more about kind of getting people directed and focused on taking a certain action. What IPC is much more focused on is getting a person much more in touch with their beliefs and their feelings, which again it sounds really wishy-washy at first, but it's the most powerful form of coaching you can use. Because if I can connect, I did it today with one of my staff in a team meeting. He was being resistant to something, and in about 30 seconds we turned him around and he had a complete light bulb moment and said, "Whoa, I feel completely different about it." And he wasn't just saying it; you could see it in his face, you could see it in his whole demeanour that it had changed, right? Because he'd suddenly connected a different feeling to the work he was being asked to do. And so IPC can facilitate change extremely quickly.
And so, what you're talking about here, it sounds, I guess this kind of will diverge into two separate things. Number one, is this going beyond, I guess, a trainer's scope of practice, number one? And then number two, is this for advanced trainers only? Or can somebody starting out, I guess, reap the benefits right off the top? Like, I know there's two different questions, so...
But they interlink, don't they? All right, so is it beyond the trainer's scope of practice? In some ways, yes. Right? That has to be the honest answer. In some ways it is, because trainers generally tend to focus on training, right? Personal trainer. So it's all about the training. And I know certainly in the States, you guys are often a fair bit different to us here in the UK, because a lot more of us give nutritional advice than in the States. You guys have got a much more litigious society, and you have to be a bit more careful about that kind of thing. That said, the first rule of all medicine, and I count personal training within the medical and health world, right? It's clear rates is do no harm, right? So here is the huge distinction between being a coach in the way that I'm describing it and being a coach in the way that a lot of trainers are doing it already, kind of on the back foot, right? This is it. A great coach gives very, very little advice. Okay, there's a huge distinction between extracting and instructing, right? So if you're the kind of coach who's saying do this, do this, do this, do this, you're kind of, I guess if something were to go wrong, you're kind of culpable because you've said to a person, do these things, give up that job, change that relationship, go and do these things, right? And they're like, suddenly everything goes crazy for them and they're coming back at you, they're going, you screwed up my life, right? That's definitely outside of a scope of practice of a trainer. If we're talking about you saying to Mary, so Mary, can you think of some better ways that you could be doing that? And is that working for you, Mary? Are there some, what do you think are the things that are getting in the way of this? How else could you, and obviously it comes down to more than just asking these base questions. There's a whole schematic that runs with this, right? But if Mary is designing her own route, which is one of the cornerstones of integrated performance coaching, is that you help the client to define, refine, and align with their own program. You don't define it for them. You don't say, what we're going to do is do this first, this second, this third, this fourth. Mary, here's the changes I want you to make. Mary, here's the things that I want you to do. Mary designs her own program, but you're the facilitator of that. So from that perspective, then no, it's not outside of the scope of a trainer. And it's certainly something that it's kind of bad analogy, but kind of it kind of makes sense. It's like putting your training programs on steroids. Any advice that you give from this point forward starts to work, right? Because
okay,
right, because Mary is now in touch with her own reasons for doing what she's doing. It's not a case of you becoming the nag, the bully, the shoulder to cry on. You're none of the typical things that most trainers see themselves as, right? I'm supposed to be there for this. I'm supposed to kick them in the butt when they don't do it. I'm supposed to give them a shoulder to cry on when things go wrong. This is not what a coach is. These are just kind of haphazard, arbitrary roles that trainers have taken on for themselves. But as we've already said, go back to the Dr. Phil question, how has that worked for you? We end up in the friend zone with most of our clients, and they're still not following our advice anyway. Right? Integrated performance coaching allows you to stay out. It allows you to stay out of the game, right? Because you can't be a coach when you're like, imagine like a pro football coach, right? Imagine this guy was on. He decided that how he's going to coach the game is to get on the field and kind of get in the pads and helmet and run up and down the field shouting out the plays. It makes no sense, right? It makes no sense. As soon as you get on the field, you're no longer a coach, right? You're now a player. A lot of personal trainers are on the field with their clients. And you know that you're on the field with your clients because when Mary isn't doing what you've instructed her to do, you start to feel pissed off, right? Maybe before pissed off, you feel a bit rejected. And kind of after rejected, you start to feel a bit undervalued, right? And then you start to feel disrespected, and then you start to feel pissed off, right? So this is the continuum that a lot of trainers go down. Well, the very fact that you're feeling any of those things means that you're actually on the field with Mary. You've gotten in the game. So integrated performance coaching keeps you outside of the game because you remember all the time that this is Mary's game, she's the player, and you're the coach. That's it. You stay outside. And so what's great about this is that you don't walk around with all of the baggage that each one of your clients give you at the end of the day. Have you ever had that, Armando? You finish a day with a big bag of rocks over your right shoulder from every client who said, oh, here's something crappy that's happened to me today. Could you carry it, please? And here's something else. Could you carry it, please? And by the way, your program's not working very well for me. Could you carry another rock please, right? We go home like this.
Right.
Well, if you're picking up rocks, you're not in the game. You're in the game. Because you should be up in the stands. Even if a client wanted to hand you a rock, you go, oh, no thanks, I'm kind of up here, I'm not coming down for it. Right? And that's what IPC does for you. So you end up none of us got into this business to be burdened by everybody else's crap. Right? We didn't get into we got into it because we want to help people, and the best way to help people is to stay physically strong. And you stay physically strong by not carrying everybody else's bag of rocks. IPC allows you to do that because it allows you to see when you're starting to move into the game. It allows the client to see where they're starting to cross the line and they're coming up into the stands. It doesn't mean that you can't be like I have. The best way I can describe it is I have a love relationship with my clients. I don't just like them; I love them, and they love me. Right? But it's a love based upon kind of deep professional respect, right? Because I don't jump inside of their game, they are able to keep growing. So and that growth is. My average client has been with me for 8 years. Some of them for over 12 years. Right? I've got clients that knew me when my wife was pregnant with my youngest son. He's 12, right? And so it's kind of before my son. They've known me longer than my son. And it's because IPC allows you to be outside of the game, but helping them direct it, but also growing every single area of their lives, not just the one. So all of the schizophrenic personalities get a look in.
Huh. Okay. Let's see. I have a few more here. Now, with all this, I mean, as far as time, I think, you know, maybe a concept of what coaching is. Is this something that you're offering separate? Like this is an upsell. Now you're doing coaching and training. Is this, are they two separate entities? Are they one? I mean, I guess it depends on the person, but like, where do you draw the line and go from there? Like, why?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Right. So the way we use it in my company is it's an integral part of every session. Like there isn't in the early sessions there might be some actual sit down time with a client. Like we sit in the consulting room, talk through their goals, get everything clear, right? Then as we move into the kind of the training aspects, coaching is involved every single time we see our clients. There's a coaching aspect there, right? But it's as long as or as short as it takes in order to make sure that Mary is still in the game. Like if it's really clear that she's taking the actions that she defined, that she's doing everything she needs, you go, oh right, okay, we can crack on. We're doing the stuff we need to do. If she says, you know what, I'm really struggling this week, I'm starting to find my inspiration wavering, and for some reason I'm feeling a bit lost, then we steal some time out of the training to fix that, right? But here's the thing: most trainers are only training their clients 2 times a week anyway. Some of them are training them 3, right? Sometimes a little bit more than that. But the average, I think, across the world is 2 training sessions per week, right? And so you've got to ask yourself, like, what is the best use of your time with Mary? Do you really believe that the fact that you've stolen 20 minutes, right? The fact that you've taken 20 minutes out of a training session to actually talk to her about why she's going off track, do you really believe it's that harmful, that 20 minutes less training is that harmful to her that you can't afford it? Or, like myself and my team and the people that I've trained in our IPC process, do you actually believe, well, hold on, if I do this bit right, then every hour for the rest of the week between now and when she sees me next, she's still in the game. She's still running the plays. She's still running up and down the field with the ball in her hand, right? Because it's pointless just treating Mary as just treating the whole thing purely as exercise. We already know that it's not the exercise that gets the results. It's not those 2 hours per week with you that gets her the result. It's what she does for every other hour of the week. And we often forget that. And when we forget that, it costs us big. It costs us huge, in fact. And so what we say is it's all about the investment. Like, do you actually realize that if you get things right in a session, no matter how you use it, like sometimes our sessions, Mary might come walking through the door, she's completely off of her game, and we say, "Well, no training today." She's like, "Oh, but I thought I'm supposed to be burning more calories and doing more of this work," and it really doesn't matter. Let's get you back in the game, because for the rest of the week you're going to be good, right? So it's critical. I think it's a completely different mindset that most trainers and coaches have had, because we believe we're doing our primary work in the session, right? But once you kind of get this kind of through the noggin, and you realize that actually the real work is done when the client leaves the session. And IPC allows you to believe that, because we show you exactly how you make the most of the rest of their hours of the week, as opposed to just worrying about those 2 that they're with you.
And so this is, I kind of want to go and transition now into the actual, this is a certification or just a workshop, or how does that go? And do you get CEUs for that, or continuing education units?
Right, we're not aligned with CEUs just yet, because it's a brand new course over there in the States. Sorry, I didn't plug in, so I'm just going to put my plug in. Right, we're not aligned with CEUs. All about preparation, guys. Should always prepare. We're not aligned with CEUs because it's a new certification program over there in the States. That said, it is a certification if you want it to be, right? And what I mean by that is this: you can attend it and just use the information. Like, we have a lot of people just attend and they say, "Gone to the course, the tools are great, I'm off, I'm using them." But you can also attend and certify, and by certifying, it means that you're submitting case studies to be assessed, so that I could say, "Hey, Armando, that was great. What you described here, the actions you took sound great, but here's how I think you should change that. And Here's some areas where I think that could be done better. Here's some areas where you seem to be doing brilliantly, right? So it really comes down to what you as the coach want. Like if you think, I don't need all the hassle of submitting case studies, I just want to learn the skill set, you can do that. If you say, I really want someone to kind of look over my shoulder to make sure that I'm coaching brilliantly, you can do that too. So it's really down to you.
Okay. Is that whole thing with the CEUs something that you wish to transition once it all gets?
I think that once we get a foothold into the States and it's clear that people want it, we'll then start to submit to a lot of the other kind of bodies. But yeah, right. I mean, right now because it's brand new, it's the CEUs right. This literally is the first course of its kind in the States. So there's no CEUs at all.
Okay. Let's see. One thing that I've noticed is, and I don't know, whoever's listening to this or watching this, if they've seen your other videos that you've posted. One of the questions that I've gotten is, I've watched the videos, and just from watching the videos, I've already gotten tremendous value from it. So I see the value in it. So number one, if you haven't watched the videos, make sure you're watching the videos if you're listening to this. But so what can you expect when you come in April for the next 2 days in those, what is it, like 16 hours or something like that, and in 2 days, something along those lines or more, something.
Yeah,
probably.
They're pretty full days. It's 16, 18 hours. Yeah, there's a lot of work there.
So what should you expect as a trainer coming in when you're coming into these trainings, when you're coming into this workshop? What should you expect to come in? Is this like just a lecture? I'm just sitting up there and I'm just listening, or is there some practical stuff? Do I need to be writing a lot of stuff? Yeah. What is the style?
Good question. It's an actual practical workshop, right? So what that means is there's a mix. There's a mix of me presenting concepts, me kind of laying out. Like the program actually begins, interestingly enough, it begins with all the things that a coach isn't, right? And the reason it begins with the things that a coach isn't is so that you yourselves can experientialize where you're not kind of meeting the mark, right? Because most people think that they're coaching. Like nearly every trainer I've ever worked with, they believe they're coaching. I set goals and I do this and I use SMART and I use the GROW and I use all these different things. So I'm coaching. And then as we start to run through all the things, because part of the whole process of definition, so we talk about define, refine, and align all the time with this program, right? There are definitions, but then there are refinements. Refinements come from being very, very clear about what something is not. Okay, so when you're working with a client, one of the fastest ways for them to actually learn what it is that they do need to do and what it is that they do want to be and what they do want to experience is actually to flip it, so they actually realize all the things that they don't want to be and don't want to experience. Okay. Right? We do exactly the same. So it's really important that as a coach, you've swallowed the same medicine as the clients. You actually understand the process. So the process of teaching you is also the process of how you guys will eventually work as coaches. Right? You'll define, refine, and align, and that's how we start the program out. So the first half day is very much the first half day is quite lecture intensive, or not quite a half day, just a bit short of a half day is quite lecture intensive. From that point forward, it becomes much more workshop oriented. So there will be concepts shared, then there'll be a practical workshop where you yourselves will actually coach someone one-to-one. Right? So you'll practice things like active listening, different levels of listening, different levels of giving feedback, and different levels of extracting versus instructing. And then when it does come time to instructing, how to instruct via a very different format to the way you've currently been doing it. So you will leave the program with some actual practical coaching experience. You'll have done it. Not only will you have done it, we won't allow you to pair up with the same person over and over and over again. So we'll keep moving you through different people. So you meet different obstacles and you meet different different paradigms and different perspectives, and you'll meet kind of different people getting agitated at different points of it. People being, you'll come away, even though it's only a couple of days, you'll come away with more experience of coaching in 2 days than you'll probably get in 2 years, because we're going to put you into scenarios where they are deliberately difficult, but it's progressive. So just like I don't get you into the gym and kind of put 220 on the bar for benches on the very first go, I'm also not going to throw you under the heaviest of coaching loads straight away. You're going to start with something very gentle, but each exercise builds upon the previous one, so that you come away with a lot of confidence and a lot of belief that you can use it. One of the hallmarks of all of my programs is I've always said that you should be able to use everything that you learn on my programs on Monday morning. Right? You shouldn't have to think about it for the next 6 months and go over your notes again for a couple of years kind of thing. Oh, I'm not quite ready for this. Monday morning, you should go, I'm going to start coaching now. And you should feel comfortable doing that. Now, you're not going to be the world's best coach on Monday morning, but you're going to be out in the starting blocks. And you're not going to feel too badly about it. Okay, I've got some tools that I can use, and I can start using this with the client. So that's pretty much the format. That's how it works. It's a very practical based kind of method of instruction.
And with that, should we expect maybe a guide on transitioning in? Like what, how should we start introducing this? I mean, all of a sudden, we're going to walk in on Monday and tell people, hey, no, we're not working out today. Today we're just going to talk.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word. There's a certain conditioning that needs to take place with some of your clients, I presume, and from going forward. So is there a transition of maybe the business and the implementation aspect of the coaching as well?
Yeah. So I'll be talking to you about exactly how I explain what coaching is to clients, how I get the buy-in, both financially and kind of mentally and emotionally, how you deal with because obviously there's a difference between coaching legacy clients and coaching new clients. Right. If you've been training Mary for 5 years, she's probably going to be in a different kind of level of receptivity compared to kind of Joe, who comes walking through the door today for the first time, and you say, by the way, this is the format in which we work here. Right. There's a difference. So I'll talk to you about how we do that practically in my studios, and how I've found it to be successful for other coaches. And it's pretty simple. But again, we don't leave any of it to chance. We talk to you about that, and there's ample opportunity for you guys to say, okay, my business is set up a little bit differently. How can I do this? So it isn't like true coaching. Like true coaching isn't one size fits all. And this coaching course, this coaching program isn't one size fits all. I recognize that you're all gonna find yourself in different scenarios, and I want to give you the base. Here's the thing. I'm sure you've heard this thing before. Methods are a many, principles but few. Methods often change, principles never do. Right? The course isn't designed around tons and tons of methods. We're not hitting you with tons of methods. What we're hitting you with is principles, which means that every time you hit a client with a principle, it's going to work. Right? So this is principle-based coaching. It's yes, there's some methodology there, but the methods only count if they sit on top of a principle. As soon as you grasp the principle, you can go, this is how you deal with this, and it becomes so obvious. It's like Homer Simpson, slap in the forehead, and it's so obvious.
Right. No, it's interesting you said that, because truly, principles are where it lies. And I always tell people the story of the first time when I started training, and the physio ball or the Swiss ball was really big during that time, and I just understanding principles, I started playing around with it, and before I knew it, I had come up with all these exercises to achieve certain things that I wanted with my clients. And lo and behold, a year later, one of my clients comes up to me and shows me this book, and she's like, wow, you never guessed. All the exercises you've taught me are in this book. And I said, what do you mean? I made all these up. How are they in a book? And sure enough, because they were based on principles, this wasn't, though I came up with them, I deduced them from what I wanted to achieve. It was something that was already created. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
And it's when you work off principles, they never change. And from there is where you have the flexibility to really be that, adaptive to each and every one of your clients' needs. And I think that's more along the lines of what you're speaking to, by using that as a foundation, and then being able to form and guide each client to wherever their journey they want to take it to.
Yeah. You see, it's the difference between being reactive and responsive. Okay, if you base it on principles, you could be responsive. If you base it on methods, the method's always reactive. You're always got to kind of keep changing things and chasing your tail a bit and trying to kind of deal with, you know, you're firefighting every time something comes up. If you've got a principle, you just immediately you access and go, okay, I've hit this issue. What is the principle for dealing with this? And it becomes very, very simple. And I like simple. I mean, I'm an intelligent guy, but I like simple because the simpler things are, the less there is to go wrong, the less there is to think about, which means you can give your full attention to the client. The more complex your systems become, the more you're thinking about the system than the client in front of you. And so, yeah, again, IPC is principle based for that reason. It just makes life very easy for the coach, and you can look like an absolute freaking genius. Right. You look amazing, and you haven't told the client to do anything. You've just asked them a bunch of questions that lead them in a certain, or not so much lead them in a certain direction, but help them find the direction. And as they find that direction, they themselves feel completely committed to their journey.
Right. And so, you know, before we wrap this up, because I think there's a lot of information here that is going to be useful, and anybody's deciding is, you know, on the fence as to, you know, is this for them or is it not? I just want to give you one last push and just say, you know, any famous last words before we kind of wrap this up, and you know, just leave it up to them and say, hey, you know, this is it.
Yeah.
This is it. It's nothing more, nothing less. It's not about a hard pitch or nothing like that. It's about the facts. If you want to create a new dimension for you and for your business, this may be something that you didn't be interested in.
Okay, so look, here's who it's not for. It's not for people that truly believe that every problem can be solved with some kind of calorie deficit or calorie burn approach, right? So if that's your mentality, if you would hate this course. You would hate this course because I'm going to be talking to you about, I'm going to be telling you about all the reasons why that side of things is almost pointless until you get inside the client's minds. So you're gonna be sitting there thinking, shit, just get them moving, just get them doing some exercise, and everything will be solved. And again, I'll just bring you back to that Dr. Phil question: how is that really working? Not just for you. Maybe it does work for you because maybe the kind of clients you attract are people that just really want to be smashed, right? But how's that working for society at large? Is the fact that we've been hammering on about calorie restriction for years, and we've been hammering on about kind of thousands of different ways to intensify your workouts. What's happening for the public at large? Are they getting better? Are they getting slimmer? Are they adhering more? No, right? That's the truth, right? Things are getting worse. So it's got nothing to do with the pure calorie restriction and creating calorie deficits is completely downstream. IPC is about going upstream to the source of the pollution. It says where is it all going wrong, and let's get upstream. Let's take care of it there, so you don't have to deal with the downstream stuff anymore. But if you are the kind of person that is really, really uncomfortable with the idea of addressing a client's feelings or addressing what lies behind a client's actions, if you just think, damn it, you know, just get off your ass and do it, right? If that's your mentality, you will hate this program. You won't like it. If you're the kind of coach who is getting burnt out because you're carrying the bags of rocks for your clients, if you're the kind of client who is starting to feel like, well, crap, you know, I don't really feel like I'm making a difference to the lives of my clients. I feel that it goes in these cycles, like I get them fit, they lose their fitness, I get them fit, they lose their fitness, and every time I get them fit and they lose it, it's that much harder to get them going again. And I think most trainers are definitely going to kind of feel that. Those clients who feel that those trainers who feel their clients are stuck in Groundhog Day, just over and over again, living the same life, they're going to love this program. Those trainers who feel that their clients are almost weekly considering whether to leave them or not, because you go home every day thinking, Mary hasn't changed again this week, and no inches have been lost, and she's not exactly feeling better about herself. In fact, as every week goes past, Mary's feeling worse and worse and worse about herself. Will the scales ever budge, and will the tape ever budge? And every time I look in the mirror, I hate me. Right? Those trainers are gonna love the program as well, because you're finally going to have an answer to that, and you're going to understand that Mary might come for the results, but actually what she stays for is experience. And there are periods of her time, periods of her life where Mary's results on the scales might not change, right? But she may start to feel brilliant about herself. She might start to think, wow, everything's coming together. And people will pay you. So this is the other side of this. If you're the kind of trainer who feels that you're in constant combat with your client, both over the information that you're giving them, but also over even simple things like fees, right? You want to put your fees up. You want to become the highest paid trainer around your area, or maybe not even the highest. Maybe you just want to earn more money from your clients, and they're resistant. Whenever a client is resistant to you putting your fees up, it's rarely got anything to do with the true fact that they can't afford you. What they're really saying is, I don't value what you're giving me right now, so why would I want to pay you any more? Right? That's the harsh truth. They're like, why should I pay you more for just giving me the same squats and the same push-ups and the same shoulder presses and ab routine and everything else? Why should I pay you more for that? Once you get into changing their experience, suddenly changing experience becomes, oh wow, I feel great. And yeah, of course I should be paying you more for that. Here's a little known secret that most people don't realize about my company. Very often, my coaches, they have their clients tell them, do you know what, I think it's time to put the fees up. And that's happened so many times in the history of my company where the client will say to the coach, I think I should be paying you more for this. Right? That's not an experience many trainers have had, right? Because people will pay you a lot of money to change. Tony Robbins says this, they'll pay you a lot of money to change their state. Okay. Right. In other words, if you can change how a person feels about themselves and about life in general, they'll pay you a lot more money for it. Very few people out there want to pay you more money for doing a little bit more squats or for kind of just because the scale is budged, because that they see the budge scaling as your job anyway. Why would they want to pay you more? If they're paying you $50 a session at the moment, why would they pay you $60 just to do the same as what they already expect from you? They don't want to do that. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why you might love this program. Ultimately, if you want to feel great, like this is probably the top reason for attending the program. If you want to feel great about yourself as a coach, and if you want your career to go beyond counting to 10 over and over again, or moving people between one machine and another, or feeling that you yourself are stuck in Groundhog Day, like, shit, can I do this for the next 20 years of my life? Can I do this up to retirement? You speak to most trainers, they will tell you they don't see themselves being a trainer until retirement, right? Well, it's ultimately because a lot of what they're doing doesn't feel meaningful to them. But as soon as you move to the point where you go, wow, I'm changing lives, and I'm really changing lives. As soon as you move to that, everything changes, and that's one of the things that the IPC will definitely do for you.
Well, Dax, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking time and number one, for flying out here. I'm excited about it, and looking forward to end of April. So if you're on this, you're listening to this, you're watching this, if this makes sense, if you have any other questions, leave a comment, send us a message. I think that, that's the communication is going to be the most important thing. Don't miss this opportunity because there's a misunderstanding or you're not certain about something. Get certain on it and make the decision. I'm excited about it, and I can pretty much guarantee this is not something that you're going to regret doing, and your clients will definitely thank you, both current and the future ones. So thank you again, everyone, for listening. This is Armando Cruz, future IPC coach. Take care, guys.
Take care, buddy.